Before we get into this, if you appreciate honest NBA breakdowns without sugarcoating or hot take nonsense, make sure you're subscribed. This channel isn't about hype, it's about reality. And this story needs to be told the right way. Let's say it straight. The Memphis Grizzlies are living in a fantasy world right now. The timing alone tells you everything. They watched Trae Young get moved for what was essentially spare change, and only then decided to leak to league insiders that they're open to listening on Ja Morant ahead of the deadline. That's not strategy. That's panic dressed up as leverage. According to league reports, Memphis is telling teams they want draft capital and young players in return. Sounds great on paper, until you ask the obvious question. Which picks? Which young players? Trae Young, a player with fewer off-court issues and a clearer offensive impact, just got moved for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. And now Memphis thinks they're pulling a premium package? That's like your neighbor selling their house for $200,000 and you turning around asking for $1 million for the exact same place. Good luck with that. What makes this even worse is that Memphis may not even control the situation anymore. Multiple reports suggest Ja has already told people around the league that he's done playing in Memphis. Whether the team wants to admit it or not, once a star mentally checks out, your leverage disappears. Front offices know that. Agents know that. Rival executives definitely know that. And this didn't come out of nowhere. Earlier this season, Ja was reportedly suspended internally after throwing his coach under the bus during a team meeting. That's not a basketball issue. That's a culture issue. Coaches across the league don't forget that kind of stuff. Neither do locker rooms. Now combine that with declining efficiency, injuries, and a contract that only gets heavier, and suddenly this isn't a superstar bidding war. It's a risk assessment. Teams aren't asking, how good is Ja at his best? They're asking, how much baggage comes with him, and how much are we willing to tolerate? Still, several teams have already been linked in league chatter. 5 names keep popping up. But here's the real question. Which of those are actually realistic, and which are just noise? Because the gap between how Memphis values Ja Morant and how the rest of the league sees him right now is massive. And that's where this story really starts to get uncomfortable. At one point this season, the frustration stopped being subtle. Cameras caught Ja Morant sulking on the court, pouting during timeouts, looking less like a franchise leader and more like someone who felt personally offended by the game plan. The message wasn't hard to read. Why am I not being used the way I want? But what happened next is what really changed how the league views him. After one loss, Ja's coach didn't dance around the issue. He addressed it directly, in front of the entire team. No private coddling, no superstar treatment, just accountability. The message was simple and brutal. Your behavior is hurting the group. You're not answering to me. You're answering to your teammates. And right now, they feel held back. This coaching philosophy comes from Europe, where hierarchy doesn't protect ego. Everything gets confronted head-on. Be honest, deal with it, and move forward. But here's the problem. This isn't Europe. This is the NBA. These players are global brands. Ja Morant isn't just a player in Memphis. He's the face of the franchise. He sells jerseys. He sells shoes. He's a superstar. And that approach only works if the superstar responds like a professional. Ja didn't. Instead of buying in, he pushed back. And that reaction matters more than people realize. Because when a star turns on a coach, the organization has one decision to make: protect the player or protect the culture. Memphis made their choice, and that alone tells you how far Ja's standing has fallen inside the building. To understand why this happened, you have to go back to 2022, the peak. Ja Morant broke out in his 3rd season, won Most Improved Player, averaged 27 a night, made All-NBA noise, and became must-watch TV. The offense was entirely built around him. High usage, constant freedom, everything flowed through Ja. But that version of Ja didn't last. Suspensions started stacking up, injuries followed, availability became a question mark. Over the past few seasons, he's missed roughly half the games. At some point, Memphis had to face reality. You can't build everything around someone you can't depend on. So the Grizzlies adjusted. They shifted the offense away from constant J-centric actions. Less pick-and-roll dominance, more structure, more balance. The message was clear. We still believe in you, but we can't live and die with you anymore. Ja hated that. This season, the rotation patterns changed again. His minutes dropped, his rhythm disappeared, and statistically, this has been the worst year of his career. Just 19 points per game, 3 rebounds, 8 assists. On the surface, you can blame reduced minutes. He's only playing around 28 a night. But minutes don't explain everything. The efficiency is alarming, around 40% from the field, nearly 21% from 3. Turnovers pushing 4 per game. That's not a scheme problem. That's not a minutes problem. That's bad basketball. Ja has made it clear he believes the coaching is holding him back. But actions speak louder than quotes, and right now, the organization appears willing to side with the system over the star. Which brings us to the trade market. Trae Young has already reset expectations. Atlanta moved him for a modest return, but there's a key difference. Trae holds a massive player option that could be declined, giving teams flexibility. Ja doesn't. He's locked in for an additional guaranteed year. It's not a supermax, it's actually manageable, but when you combine contract length, efficiency drop, availability issues, and locker room concerns, teams stop dreaming and start calculating risk. And that calculation is exactly why Memphis may be asking for far more than the league is willing to offer. Because this isn't about talent anymore. It's about trust. Ja Morant's reputation and his on-court reality no longer line up, and that gap is exactly why this situation is spiraling. On paper, he's still treated like a franchise star. In practice, he's one of the most high-maintenance players in the league. Stylistically, Ja is extremely specific. He needs shooters to space the floor because his game lives at the rim. He needs strong defenders around him because defensively, he gives you very little. He needs the ball constantly because he's not effective off it. That already narrows the list. Add in efficiency issues and maturity concerns, and suddenly you're not talking about a plug-and-play star. You're talking about a custom-built roster requirement. He's the opposite of players like Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard, guys you can drop into almost any system and immediately raise the ceiling. Ja doesn't adapt to teams. Teams have to adapt to Ja. And in today's NBA, front offices hate that. So let's get to the teams. First, who's already out? Houston. A legitimate reporter confirmed the Rockets have zero interest. No hesitation, no will monitor, just a clean no. That alone should tell you something about how league circles view this situation. Then comes the Milwaukee rumor, and this is where things get messy. The claim wasn't based on sourcing, conversations, or organizational insight. It was based on a team-to-monitor hunch. That matters because casual fans treat that language like confirmation when it's not. Monitoring isn't reporting. Even ignoring the source issue, the fit makes zero sense. Ja doesn't shoot threes. Giannis doesn't space the floor. Both need the ball. We already saw how difficult it was to balance Giannis and another high-usage guard. Expecting that combination to suddenly work better with an even less efficient shooter is wishful thinking. Milwaukee would be one of the worst basketball fits imaginable. So scratch the Bucks. Now let's talk reality. After what just happened with Trae Young, when nearly the entire league passed at a rock-bottom price, the question becomes uncomfortable. If 29 teams said no to Trae, who's saying yes to Ja? That leaves desperation and need. Sacramento is one possibility. They've been searching for a true table setter, and they do have draft assets. In theory, a framework involving picks and a young rotational player could exist. But even then, Sacramento would be betting that Ja stabilizes, matures, and regains efficiency, all while reworking their spacing to accommodate him. That's a massive gamble. Minnesota is another name that comes up. Anthony Edwards needs help in the backcourt, and experiments haven't fully worked. On paper, the athleticism looks exciting. In reality, it raises questions about ball dominance, spacing, and defensive consistency. Minnesota would also have to decide whether pairing Edwards with another usage-heavy guard is the right long-term direction. Then there's the truly desperate angle, the Clippers. They have veteran pressure, aging stars, and limited time. They also have very limited draft flexibility. Even if a package could be assembled, it likely wouldn't meet Memphis' reported demands. And that's the recurring problem. What Memphis wants and what the league is willing to give are not the same thing. Which brings us to the most revealing moment of all. After all the trade noise, the messaging suddenly shifted. A quiet follow-up suggested Memphis is still open to continuing with Ja as the focal point of their future. Convenient timing. But the truth is harsher. They don't have another option right now. Except there's one problem. Ja didn't take that well. Instead of laying low, he reposted a message about not expecting loyalty when someone is in survival mode, paired with behavior that only reinforced existing concerns. For executives watching from afar, that wasn't passion. That was validation. This has become a situation where everyone loses leverage. Memphis can't extract the return they want. Teams don't want the risk. And Ja feels boxed in by an organization that no longer bends to him. And this is why the Trae Young trade matters so much. At first glance, that deal looked insane, a clear sell low. But once you break it down, it reset the market. It told front offices they don't have to overpay for flawed stars. It told teams patience is cheaper than panic. And it quietly removed the fantasy that reputation alone drives value. For Ja Morant, that's the real problem. Because talent isn't what's being questioned anymore. It's everything that comes with it.